Hello, hello. Hey there, hey there. Welcome into another edition of Between the Lines. I'm Josh Ellis, editor-in-chief of Success Magazine. We're going inside the November-December issue where we have an amazing essay, as they all are, by one of our favorite writers, Michael Graff. It's called Is the Present Not Perfect? You can find it in the issue and at success.com. Michael, love your work as always. Thank you for this story.
Thank you for the opportunity to write it. I love writing for Success and have for years.
Yeah, we go way back, to the first time when I think your first story, we tried to kill you, sending you off to like one of the most treacherous hikes in North America. They have gotten hopefully easier, but your gift for introspection, I think, really speaks to readers, and I hear from people often that one of the things that they love about Success is like quick tips to help them run their business better. And we have plenty of that, but I always want us to be able to make room for, some thoughtful long form pieces like this one, where, you just view life or success and life so holistically, and in a way that I think it's important for readers to be exposed to for their own perspective. I looked at the assignment letter that I sent you, and as is always the case with your stuff, my idea was like pretty narrow, and then you just, like, in your fantastic way, expanded it to be so meaningful. So what we originally asked for was just like you to write about what your biggest goal could be, and tell us about where you took it.
Wow, that's funny. Yeah, it does always happen this way, and I always appreciate when you send those assignments like that, and I can just turn them in different directions. I always think about your readers first, and I think I identify with them a lot. I think I have, there's one of the great things about writing essays for Success is that it's a place where you can kind of admit that maybe you don't have it figured out, and that's like one of the keys to success. I feel like as you grow into a place where you're comfortable admitting what you don't know about about the future, about your goals, about the world, things like that. And I just always like exploring in that space personally. And, you guys give me a place to do that with words. And in this case, we talked about goals. And for the first time in my life, I think I'm at my full-time job is with a company called Axios. And for the first time in my life, we actually have to literally set goals, like put them into a computer system for our bosses to like see, and then we review them at the end of 6 months. And I had never had that before. I'd never had, you write down goals and then you evaluate. I've made lists for New Year's, for New Year's resolutions and things like that, things I want to accomplish in the next year, but never anything like just, formal goals that anybody in your company can see and judge you on. And, it happened to be, I was thinking about this story and I'd written, 1,000 or so words on the sort of generally what I was thinking. And then one day my review came in on a Saturday of all days. And I just was like, wow, this is timely. It came in. It was on a 3-day weekend, and I'm just walking. I'd just gotten home from a walk with my wife and my son and our dog, and it was just one of those great days. And then all of a sudden, I looked at my email, and I had like this judgment on how I'd done the past 6 months, and I just thought, this is this is sort of the modern conundrum, right? Everybody's working from home these days during the pandemic, or lots of folks are, if you're lucky enough to be able to, and you have that question of whether you are, you're working from home or you're living at work. And I just, I just thought that tension has been there for me. And I just started to explore that tension a little bit more as it related to my family and my work, both of which mean everything to me.
People just have to read it. I mean, it's really even hard to discuss something that is as deep as you're able to go. So I'll invite people to get over to the site or onto newsstands in the November and December issue. But um, as you say in the story, the review went fine, and we all tend to be our hardest critic. I think you did a self review, and that was part of it. And you spent way more time on that, I'm sure, than any of our bosses would ever spend on a review of somebody else. What did you learn from kind of, working through that thought process of to what extent it's good to be critical of yourself because it, encourages growth and nobody wants to be stagnant. But at the same time, it's can have some negative effects.
Yeah, these are all sort of the lessons you pick up over time. I'll never, I've always thought, what are people thinking of me? That's always been something, what are my bosses thinking of me? What is my wife thinking of me? What is my dog thinking of me? What is, and so I know, there are several things that I'm reviewed on daily. And the biggest thing is I look at my son and I can see things that he's picked up from me. And I say, okay, this is the most important review of my life. Like that. And so I rank that review higher than my work review. And I do that in the essay. I make that very clear in the essay, I think. But when it, I do think it's something that I've been challenged with my whole career, and most successful people I think is that you're very, very hard on yourself, and you tend to think that other people are going to be as hard on you as you are, and it's just not the case. I'll never forget early in my career, I thought about switching. I had an opportunity that came up to switch jobs, not 6 months after I joined one job, and this other job was clearly better. And I remember calling a friend, and he said, people are more forgiving than you give them credit for. And I think like my biggest fear was leaving that job after 6 months. And I'll never forget him saying that to me, because it's a very good lesson to give people more credit than you are giving them credit for. Like, people understand why people make moves in their lives and do things in their lives. And people also understand why you're successful. People understand why you, in our review, your bosses understand why you haven't been successful the past 6 months, like things like that. People are more understanding than I think most people give them credit for. So it was, it was an interesting process to go through the review and read my scores for myself being way lower than the scores that my peers and bosses were giving me.
Well, as I said, you got to read it if you haven't already. Everybody watching, check out the story. A Mike Graff essay, and it's all caps. They always make you feel good, and Mike Graff conversation makes me feel good. So enjoyed you being here on Between the Lines, Mike. Thanks for the story.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for the opportunity. Look forward to the next one.
And thank all of you for joining us for Between the Lines. I'll do it again next week. So long, everybody.